when you pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
The playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of NETMA. I'm your host of the program, Tyler Falk. Glad you can join us for yet another edition of the show as we wrap up our coverage this week in preparation for Week 9 of the Simulation Football League. And as we get closer and closer, a lot more players are coming into the league. A lot more players, or a couple of players, have left the league. Most notably, of course, Jimmy Hazard and TD Drew leaving their full-time roster spots. But to make up for that, we've got roughly around 90 new members to look forward to for the SFLM. Maybe as we get closer and closer to that maybe 90-player benchmark, we'll see that expansion in the upcoming. Lots of rumors coming through. A lot of the SFL content, Swamp Talk, talking to a couple of teams, and that's a good read as well. Go ahead and check out Swamp Talk. Link to their newspaper is in the SFL website. Link to that is down below in the description, alongside a couple of other useful links, none other than the official NETMA server. Go ahead and jump in there if you haven't done so already. Happy to welcome you in. All right, let's get to Now You Know and picks for all 11 contests. All spreads are provided by the great guys over at Jack's Data. The SFL community, 41 and 39 on who you got. You guys are picking straight up. Well, I'm picking on spreads, and I'm not doing too much better. 42-38. My record. One thing I do have going for me, though, are those nifty best bets. I've gone 6-2 on my picks of the week, basically. Which game I think I have the most confidence in, or the biggest hunch, or what have you. So leave that to what it is. But that's where everything stands as we go into week number 9. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game of the week. That's Vancouver flying down south the border to Mexico. So a Canadian-Mexican battle on tap to begin the entire week, and I'm going with Vancouver. Mexico City has held serve in the past 3 contests over Vancouver, scoring in total let's do quick math here. I didn't think I was going to have to do this. 22 points more than Vancouver combined over those past 3 games, though the margin of victory has slipped. Also, it's gone from 12 points in week 13 to only season 13, 7 points in season 15, and only just this past season, Mexico City were only able to score 3 more points than Vancouver. So the deficit between the two clubs is definitely shrinking. And even though Mexico City has been the better team in those games, Vancouver clearly looks like a side, barring an injury to Robert Redford, all could be another team that could be undefeated. So it's not necessarily looking the way that Mexico City would want it to be. Mexico City may be the better team over the past couple seasons over Vancouver, though this season, Vancouver, lighting the world alight in the SFL and providing the spark, not just the passing game, but through the running game as well. Robert Redford, of course, and their no fullback, Sire Storm, had an incredible week in week number 1. He's continued to provide a little bit of stability in the run department. So that's what they're expecting. That is something that Vancouver fans should be looking forward to, especially in this game, especially when the defense comes in putting up some very good numbers for Vancouver. It's been quite a while since they were even in consideration for maybe a top 10 defense, but that's exactly what Mexico City have. Vancouver have. And meanwhile, in contrast, Mexico City, last season were one of the best defenses. Now they find themselves toward the back end of the table in a lot of categories, and to include passing touchdowns allowed and first downs allowed with 133. Vancouver allowing 134 first downs so far this season, 15th and 16th respectively. Though I think Vancouver will do just enough, and they'll probably get a few turnovers compared to Mexico City. The defense has only 10 takeaways. That puts them 19th in the league, and Vancouver's defense 19 total turnovers. That puts them 5th best in the turnover differentials of +5 compared to Mexico City's -10. So I think Vancouver's defense gives them the edge in this contest. On to game number 2. That's Louisiana and Charleston. And this is a battle between two pretty good defenses. The Louisiana defense, of course, we know how prolific they've been with their takeaways this past season, with a couple of league leaders in the interception department. But it's been an entire team effort. They don't allow a whole lot of third down conversions. They don't allow a whole lot of rushing touchdowns or rushing yards in general, for that matter. And the defense has kept them in games, especially when it comes down to the leg of Otis Boudreaux. The big test here for Charleston is, can they break down this defense? I think they can. It all depends on what Kentez Johnson we see. What version will we see? His first appearance in a Predator uniform, or his performance last week when they lost to Tulsa and he threw 4 interceptions. If anything is to go by, I think Kentez will limit the interceptions a little bit, maybe only 2 takeaways, and it's a very tight ball game between these two clubs. I think it's just beyond that 3.5-point mark, 4-point spread between Louisiana and Charleston when all is said and done. On to game number 3. Jacksonville, Atlanta. This is my best bet of the week, and I didn't learn my lesson from week 1. I'm picking against Jacksonville with the Swarm at home. The Swarm are 1-2 when playing at home this season, which is a stark contrast to last season when Atlanta went 5-1 at home. Things have needed to be changed in Atlanta. We know they've got a new offensive coordinator now. We know they're going to have to try and change things up. And I think with the week off, Atlanta should have enough to take down Jacksonville. The biggest concern for Atlanta is, can they get back to their consistent performance of season 17, or is it just a case that Atlanta's story, Atlanta's dominance, might be a little bit gilded, wilted, and possibly it might not just be the season. This game will really tell us, with Jacksonville on a very strong start to their season. Not to put anything past the Kings, this is not going to be an easy game. I think Atlanta covered the spread, at least the 6.5-point spread. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but for Jacksonville, if you want to maybe establish yourselves and retake an Atlantic Division title, you have to beat Atlanta. This is a statement game for both teams. Expect a hard-fought battle between Dunhill and Dynasty, and expect Willis and Hollywood to have solid games on the ground. The running back that has the best game will win this football game. It's clear to me that Willis, especially playing against San Diego and having a fantastic day on the ground, that's exactly what they need to do again. Atlanta shut down nearly completely last time out versus Las Vegas. What happened in this game? I'm thinking Atlanta covered the spread at least. The blowout victory, I think, just a comedy of errors and something that Atlanta will have clearly fixed coming in to Week 9 versus Jacksonville. All right, game number 4, Baltimore and Sioux Falls, and I'm picking Sioux Falls to cover the spread here. Baltimore has only managed to put, on average, around 8 points in front of Sioux Falls, or Sioux Falls has only been able to put up about roughly 8 points ahead of them in a majority of their matchups. What I'm saying by that, maybe just to clarify, is there is not really a big gap between these two when it comes to the final score most times. In season 16, when these two clubs last met in week 2 of the regular season, Baltimore crushed them 30-3. When you look at every single, or pretty much every single other contest between the two clubs, it's been in the later part of the season. Week 7 through week 10, and then, of course, the championship game in season 15 when Baltimore took home the hardware. Sioux Falls is going to keep this game close. Baltimore has always known Sioux Falls to more or less rely on a running game. That's exactly how they beat him in season 16. Baltimore now know that Sioux Falls is much more of a passing team. They've had a week to prepare for Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls have started to go toward the passing game, which has been their key to success so far this season. Baltimore has played against London a couple times now, which is a strictly pass-heavy team. Now, Baltimore should win this football game, but Sioux Falls, to me, will cover the spread because of the new passing attack that Julian Tyree finds himself thrusted into a leading role as the headliner guy comparatively to the halfback show, which, of course, was Colin Hart for many, many seasons. Now is GP Wells, who he himself had a good game versus DC a week ago in that victory. But Sioux Falls, I think, will do just enough to take down not take down Baltimore, but to cover the spread. I'm going to catch myself there. On to game number 5. These are the games going over on Sunday. London and Las Vegas. We were just talking about London. Las Vegas shocked everybody, just blowing out Atlanta at home. They stay here at home. They're playing London. I'm picking London to cover again because Las Vegas, while they've been good in spurts, weeks 2 and 3, for example, and then, of course, they lost back-to-back games versus Sioux Falls and Louisiana. They need to find a little bit more consistency in their game plan. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think they caught Atlanta unawares, and I think London would be the team, could be the team. Of course, they're coming back. A win would get them back to 500 and keep a steady pace and keep them on track for a playoff spot. Las Vegas, 3-3 coming into this football game. This would be a game for Las Vegas to say, you know what? London, on paper, might be the better team. They might be the better team. London, first in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns. Of course, they're a passing team. Las Vegas, they can do it all. They can pass when they need to, but it's more so the running game led by Scott Johnson that has really carried the way for Las Vegas. So, when it comes down to the running game, especially the running defense for London, that is where they are lacking. 21st in the league, giving up on average around 125 yards a game. So if this becomes a shootout, it becomes a high-scoring football game, London might have the advantage. But if Las Vegas' defense play exactly how they played versus Atlanta last week, expect Las Vegas to come out with a victory, though I think London will put up more than 6 points than what Atlanta managed to do a week ago. On to the next game. This is our only pick'em of the week. Tulsa, Carolina. This is a straight-up pick. I'm picking right alongside you guys in the SFL community. Tulsa, Carolina, very tight ball game, though I think it's much more of a clearer choice than what the spread makes it out to be. Tulsa, I think, are the clear favorites. Out of the 5 matchups, they've won 4 of them. A majority of those matchups come when Tulsa's been at home. They're on the road. This will be the 3rd time they've been on the road. The last time they played was on the road at David A. Richardson Memorial Stadium in Carolina, where Tulsa beat Carolina by 6 points. Tulsa, I think, with JQ under center and Douglas Brown finding his way, maybe a coming out party for Douglas Brown last week versus Charleston. This will be the game to watch for Tulsa. If they want to keep pace with Louisiana and maybe a resurgent Atlanta, Tulsa need this game versus Carolina. And Carolina, of course, will need this game to have any shot of keeping their playoff hopes alive. A win versus Tulsa would really help out their strength of schedule / strength of victory as well. Carolina, their struggles are well documented. Their defense is one of the leakiest in the league. 21st in passing yards allowed, 21st in total yards allowed. The offense can be good at times. It was good early in the season, but they've now suffered 3 back-to-back losses. Tulsa, on the other hand, the defense and offense are about the same, around mid-table thereabouts. And that's just keeping them flying underneath the radar, I think. I think Tulsa are a lot more scarier than a lot of people think. If you want to look at the only team that both teams have played against, Louisiana, Tulsa beat Louisiana, where Carolina fell to them last week, of course, 22-14. I think Tulsa have this game probably by about 6 points once again, just how they beat them last season. On to game number 7, Fort Worth, San Diego. San Diego, of course, have not beaten Fort Worth in 2 tries. Both those tries have also come on the road versus Fort Worth. This is the first time that Fort Worth will be welcomed into San Diego. San Diego, of course, been the better team this season, 3-3, back-to-back losses, however, for the Mavs in games they could have used to maybe solidify themselves as maybe an up-and-coming playoff team. Fort Worth, this is it for them. This is the game that they need to, well, they're going to have to win every single game, but this is the game they have to get on the right track and right track early. The offense has to step up. The running attack by Williams has been good. However, the passing attack sometimes lets them down. Of course, rookie quarterbacks will do that sometimes, just the growing pains that they go through. So this is almost looking to me like a Ottawa Cavalry, Johnny Reno. Wow. Why can't I think of who he played for it? I had it in the tip of my tongue earlier. Lexington. There we go. Lexington. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Johnny Reno. So Lexington versus Ottawa rematch for the two of them. Now with a much more expanded roster to find a way down the field for him. In comparison, minor league rosters are pretty slim pickings for all intents and purposes. But it'll be fun to see these two quarterbacks on the field. San Diego, I think, will have the advantage. The offense, when they need to, can be consistent. I think a week off for San Diego will give them the edge versus Fort Worth. And for Fort Worth, the defense is going to have to be strong. It's been surprisingly lackluster this season, whereas in seasons past, they've been one of the best. It just comes down to, can the offense hold serve? Can the offense keep pace with that defense? And so far, neither has decided to step up. So I think San Diego come out with this victory. On to game number 8, and there is absolutely no history between Portland and Lone Star. And I wasn't able to find an exact stat. I was trying to see if Lone Star, because I know Lone Star, I think, played DC in their inaugural season. I think Lone Star was the team that DC beat for their first win in return to the SFL. Portland don't have such luxury. Portland 0-7. Lone Star are almost like a certain black and yellow team from Pennsylvania in a certain other three-letter organization that tends to play down to their competition at times. Now, hold everything, Bo Martin Jr. Hold everything, Dave Axis. I'm not saying that you guys are going to lose to Portland. All I'm saying is that Portland needs to turn it around. Swamp Talk released a little short blurb saying that, there's maybe some discontent in that locker room. A good performance here versus Lone Star would do wonders for the morale in that locker room. I think they need to play closer to their competition, that being Portland. They need to show everybody that, yes, we have a fantastic front office staff. Can we finally put a game together this season? It's been what 9 games now without a win. If you go back to last season, something has to change. Something has to go the way for Portland. For Lone Star, you better keep an eye on Portland this week. You better have a good game plan, because you don't want to be the team again that gives a team their first win of the season, especially late on, especially if you're trying to keep pace with Mexico City. You're tied at the top of that South Division. You need to come away with a victory here. That should be enough driving force for them to come out with a victory and for them to move to 5-3. Portland, it's going to be a tough ball game. It's going to be a tough ball game, Portland. OJ Bruin and company, please put a game together. Put a game together that the SFL knows you can put together, and show us your commitment. Show us your resolve. Show us that 0-7 will not define you and put you back into the win column. That's all I got to say. A little bit of pep talk for the Portland faithful. Lone Star, I think, do win that football. All right, on to game number 9. DC, Denver. Now, DC would like you to forget the last time these two teams played, the only time these two teams played. Denver shut out DC 32-0 in the second week of DC's return in season 16. For Denver, since season 16, when they won the championship, Denver has gone a little bit of a rebuilding phase. Of course, losing a whole bunch of pieces, bringing in Eric Price and Bailey O'Shaughnessy, among others, to help fill spots that were left behind by a few veterans. DC, meanwhile, have started to slowly but surely grab a couple of wins and be more of a statement in their return. It did take DC a little bit of time to get acclimated in their first go around early on in the SFL days. Now they're back. Now after their second reemergence, their second rebirth, maybe they're the Phoenixes of the SFL. But for DC, this is crucial. A lot of crucial games as we get closer and closer to the season. There's probably another box you can check off on your cliche bingo card there. But for the Dragons, it's going to be another tough test. What needs to happen here for DC and their second best points per game average of offense is rely heavily on Kevin Say, who quickly had become a early MVP candidate. Sioux Falls, in that incredible defense, shut down Kevin Say for only 61 yards. Can he get back on the horse and reemerge as an MVP frontrunner? Denver, in the defensive department, has been in the top 10 in rushing defense. So maybe it's another hard day for Kevin Say as Denver finds a way to stop him. It's going to be on the entire linebacking core, I think, of Jose Fuentes, Juan Mississippi, and Adam Wiseman to stop Kevin Say, because he likes to bounce it out to the outside. If you cannot stop him on the outside, it's going to be a long day of running. Your defense is going to tire it out. And I think DC is going to do just enough to come away with the victory. And I think it's going to be by about a little more than a field goal, maybe even a touchdown here for DC. Denver won't be a game that they're going to be out of it entirely. I think this game will be close. If I even had to put a score on it, I'd probably say to be 28-24 final score, DC with the victory. All right, final game Sunday night, game number 10 of the week. Houston and LA. LA, to me, look not necessarily dead in the water, but they don't look comfortable, especially versus Lone Star, who, again, crucial interceptions by Sully Richardson. Only 2 of them, but it was a very, it was very like Sully to give away 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6 to Bo Martin Jr. They completely dominated. It's head scratching the way that Los Angeles lost that football game. I almost wanted to give LA the advantage here. However, 7.5 points for LA over a feisty Houston team whose offense can make plays when Dave Burr is throwing accurate footballs. And if it's not that, Brad Jones is scampering for 200 plus yards, especially last week versus London. So I think Houston will have a shot in this game. Hence why I'm giving them the advantage to cover the spread. Final game, this is the Monday night special. St. Louis and Florida. Florida have not lost a single game to St. Louis in all 3 of their previous matchups. Florida, 3-3, back-to-back losses, need to find a way to win. St. Louis, who are struggling themselves, 3 straight losses in their route, maybe to another 500 season, 500 the football team for the Gladiators. Sorry, but your history kind of shows you're right around 500 last 4 seasons. For Florida, though, back half of the schedule, we've gone on and on and on this week about Florida having much better second half of the schedule. If you even just take a look at last season in their back half of the schedule, all up into the championship game, they hadn't lost a game since week 4 of season season 17. So we know that Florida can put things together when they need to in the back halves of seasons. Now, can Florida rely on their defense? Yes. That offense has been a little off kilter for the most part. 3 interceptions last time out for Ron Cochran against Charleston. If you're not able to necessarily keep control of the football, of course, you're going to lose football games. And so what needs to happen is Florida come out with a clear and concise game plan to get easier throws for Ron Cochran. I think that's what they do, and I think they have enough to score more than a touchdown worth of points against St. Louis. Christian Brown is pretty accurate, but they're unable to punch it in, almost like Louisiana in a sort of way. So Florida should be able to come away with this victory. All right, that's going to do it here for another week here on NETMA. We'll catch you next week on Tuesday for a new week of NETMA. Of course, we're not going to go and do any shows on any days that have any SFL action. So, of course, no game Monday when we have the Monday night special. So next time you'll see NETMA will be next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. And that will do it. So until then, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.